All righty. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us. We are super excited for our 2022-2023 program year. And of course, a part of that, we always have our training and professional developments that is a piece of this. So we are glad to have you all join us this morning. You are in for a treat, as always, with Miss Shavon Dotson, who is going to be our facilitator for today. So as always, if you all could please, in the chat, just for our records purpose, put your name and the organization that you are representing today in the chat. Put your name and the organization that you are representing in the chat, please, just so that we can keep that for our records. We are super glad that you have joined us on today. All righty. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All righty. So, and afterwards, of course, later I will post a survey, just so you can let us know what your thoughts were of the training, and also just let us get feedback to what we can do better going forward. All righty, but without further ado, and those who just joined us, please put your name, in the the organization that you are representing in the chat, please. All right, and without further ado, I will go ahead and hand it over to our facilitator, Ms. Shavon Dotson. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Let's see. Who do we have here today? First of all, let me just give a disclaimer and say, excuse me, I have like a billion screens up right now. So I am working from two different computer screens for our training today. So if you see me moving my head this way, it's because I got a lot going on over here. All right, let's see who we have here today. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Barbara. Good morning, Nancy from Lighthouse Academy. Good morning, Rose, ACE Project. Good morning, Whitney, St. George's Scholar Institute. Good morning, Jesse, Traeger Family Jewish Community. Good morning. Is it Keisha or is it Kasaya? I don't want to mess it up. Feel free to correct me, but good morning.
Good morning, Kisa.
Kisa, see, that's why I'll be asking. Kisa, good morning, you're welcome. Good morning, Tanika, Office of Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods. Good morning, everyone. All right, so thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name is Shavon Dotson. I am going to be your facilitator today. Good morning, Angela. My pronouns are she, her. I am going to say, if you have a very specific pronoun that you would like me to use, please let me know. You can change your name and put your name / pronouns because I want to make sure that I am utilizing the correct pronouns for everyone. If I mess your name up, please correct me. I want to make sure that I pronounce everybody's name correctly because your name is who you are. That is your identity, and I want to honor you in that today. So if I mess anything up, please let me know. Please also feel free to change your name to rename yourself and include your pronouns. Again, my pronouns are she, her. So you can feel free to address me as such. Happy Tuesday. Let me just say also, thank you all so much for your flexibility. Last week, I had a family emergency that literally came up in the middle of the night, and we needed to postpone this training to this week. So thank you so much for your understanding, for your flexibility, and for your willingness to be here today, this morning with us. We're going to be talking about foundations of self-awareness of emotional development today. If you all are familiar with the Weicker Center, they have these new youth methods series based on social emotional learning. And that's what we're going to be exploring this year. And today we're going to start with a foundations about self-awareness and emotional development. And I'm going to get into kind of what that is and what that looks like a little bit later on. But I do want to kind of give you an overview of what this day is going to look like. We are going to be here training for I'm somewhere between like 2.5 to 3 hours. If I can let you go a little earlier, I absolutely will. I'll let you get back to your day. But we do have a lot of content to go over. So we are going to be, here for a few hours. If at any point you need to step away, take a phone call, or, eat whatever, please feel free to do so. We are going to take some breaks. I am not going to be talking for 3 hours straight, so don't worry about that. This training is meant to be interactive. I mean, like super interactive, y'all, like really. I am going to ask a request, if you will. This is something I typically don't do on trainings, but because of the nature of the information we're going to be discussing, I am going to make a request of sorts, right? So I am going to ask if you are in a space where you can do so, and if you are comfortable, if you could turn your cameras on. I am going to ask people to be on camera for this training because of what we're going to be discussing. We're going to get a little personal, and sometimes it's very difficult for people to feel comfortable enough to get personal and share when you feel like you're talking to yourself, right? So if you are in a space and are able, if you could turn your cameras on so we could see your beautiful faces, that would really help us and the community that we're building, because we want to create a safe space. If you are not in a space where you can do that because you got a lot going on, we totally understand. But as soon as you get to a space where you can, I'm going to ask that you hop on camera. I see all these beautiful faces. Good morning, you all. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for honoring us today. Okay. Foundations and self-awareness of emotional development. First of all, y'all, I'm so excited that I was able to embed this little presentation in the background. I feel like I can see me, I can see the presentation. I am so excited about this. Antonio and I were just like, oh my goodness, how did this happen? So kudos to Zoom for stepping up their game and allowing me this ability to embed this training in my background. This is technology. I do not control technology. So if at any point I start sounding like a robot, if you lose me, if you can't hear me, if I freeze, if anything happens, just type it in the chat. You can just feel free, type it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and be like, sis, we lost you. Say it again. I can't hear you. And I'll make sure that I do a technology check, because again, I don't control technology. Sometimes I wish I did, but I don't. So if some things pop up, just let me know and I will make sure to make an adjustment at the time. All right, so if you've never heard of the Weichert Center, right, or the Forum for Youth Investment, this is just a little information about them. Again, this training that I'm going to be doing, the training that I'll do almost every month, is a part of a series that they created, the Forum for Youth Investment created. So of course, here's a little bit about them as well. They're really all about youth program quality. So making sure that no matter where you are, we're aligning on the principles and the values of what we consider quality programming for our young people. Go ahead and type into the chat for me, yes or no. Have you ever heard of the Weichert Center? Type into the chat for me, yes or no. Right, yeah, I see some answers coming through. Some people say yes. Jesse says, no, never heard of them. Okay, so people are like, yeah, I have. Cool, well, if you have never heard of the Weichert Center or the Forum for Youth Investment, highly recommend you go to their website and check them out. There is so much information about program quality, assessment tools, a lot of research. Everything that they do is evidence-based. So all of the trainings that you're going to see, they are evidence-based, and they're really about strengthening our practices and our programs, really about improving and aligning on our policies, and just planning and partnering together for impact. So they're a really great resource and a great tool to utilize. So that is that information if you've never heard of them. So again, this is a new series that the Weichert Center has rolled out. Matter of fact, it's so new that you all are probably one of few organizations who are getting trained on this, because right now, I think there are only like 5 or 6 of us even trained to be able to deliver and facilitate this training series. So kudos to you all. for being one of the first to be able to participate in this. So this is really about preparing our young people to thrive. We're going to be talking about emotion management and empathy in this series, as we're talking about self-awareness and we're talking about emotional development. So you see these two circled here. This is really going to be our focus today: emotion management, empathy. Now, what I want you to know is that we're really going to talk about this emotion management and empathy in ourselves. So we're going to focus on like what your emotion management looks like, what your empathy looks like, and then we're going to connect it to how do we support our youth in that as well. And also, as we're going along, if anyone has any questions, if I'm talking too fast or anything, please feel free to type it in the chat or unmute yourselves and let me know. So here is our social emotional learning pyramid of program quality. Go ahead and let me know, type into the chat, yes or no. Have you ever seen this pyramid before, or a pyramid similar, right? Usually when we do our youth methods, this is a similar pyramid that we utilize as well. So type into the chat, let me know. I see some yeses coming in. Okay, so people are pretty familiar with this pyramid. Amazing. So we use this pyramid in the youth methods to really kind of talk about program quality, right? To determine what aspects are necessary in order for us to know we are producing quality programming for our young people. We know traditionally we look at the safe space, right? We talk about the physical environment. We talk about, psychological safety. We talk about emotional safety. Then we talk about the supportive environment, interactive environment, and an engaging environment. So similarly, when we're thinking about social emotional learning, we are also utilizing this pyramid. And here we're in safe space, we're talking about creating safe spaces emotionally, right? Creating emotional safe space in our programs. How do we do that? And then in supportive environment, here we're talking about emotion coaching, right? Scaffolding learning, fostering a growth mindset. In interactive environment, we're talking about fostering teamwork, promoting responsibility and leadership, and then cultivating empathy. And in engaging environment, we're talking about just furthering their learning. How do we take it even further? How do we support our youth interests? And then how do we support the plans and the goals that they have as well? So in our social emotional learning, we're going to be focusing on those things. And that's how it aligns with our pyramid of program quality there. Again, here's a whole sequence of the SEL methods. We are right here. We're going to start at the foundations. Now, we're going to start at foundations, and then there are 2 additional trainings that we will have in subsequent months that really focus on building on the foundations, on this foundations method. So this month, we're just going to go over the foundations. Then we're going to talk about in subsequent months, emotion coaching, and then also empathy. So in the SEL series, we always start with the foundations, and the foundations webinars or workshops are typically longer than our other workshops because, again, we're setting the foundation. We want to norm on an understanding of what are we even talking about. Let's norm on some definitions. Let's norm on some expectations. And then we will get into diving deeper. So with the foundations, we're really going to focus more on applying this to ourselves. And then we'll talk a little bit about how to support our youth. But when we get into like emotion coaching and cultivating empathy, these specific methods, then we're going to turn it to like, how do we really support our youth and implement this in programming? We like to call this the parallel process. This basically means that as we are learning, right, we can then teach our young people. So we're not going to approach this work to say, okay, Shavon, well, just give me the information so I can take it back to my young people. No, we're going to say, hey, like, let me learn about myself first, because the more I know about me and how I manage myself, the easier it is for me to model this information and for me to teach this information to our young people. So this is what we call the parallel process. We're all learning together and we're learning to be more self-aware so that we can then model and take it back to our programs and support our youth in a more effective way. Okay, so before we get into, we're going to do a warm-up activity, but before we get into that, I want to do a check-in. If you've never attended a training that I do, hey, welcome. Welcome to one of my trainings, but I always like to start with a check-in. I want to know, before we get into any of this, I really want to give you a second to check in and let me know how you're doing. If you need to vent, if your weekend just didn't go right, if you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or maybe you woke up on the right side of the bed and you're just excited to be here, I want to make space to check in with you and genuinely see how are you feeling today. And I'm going to share with you and let you know how I'm feeling today too. All right, so this is how we're going to do this. We're going to do it really quickly, doesn't have to take a long time, but you're going to let me know what type of day you are having. You are going to let me know and type into the chat, are you having a sunshiny day? That means you woke up in a great mood. You are excited about the day. You're ready to tap into this information and just get it going. Maybe you had your coffee. You got a lot of energy. You had a real good breakfast, chilling at the crib on the couch, right? Didn't have to go to the office, whatever that is. That is you having like a sunshiny day. You'll type that into the chat if that is the day you're having. Like, girl, it's just sunshine today. Amazing. Type into the chat if you are having a partly cloudy day. Maybe you're still waking up. Maybe you're like, Shavon, 9 a.m. is a little bit too early, sis, for training, but get me to like 10:30 and I might have you. I might be there. Maybe you haven't had your coffee yet. You didn't eat yet. It's there. You're still getting up. You're still getting into the day. Maybe you're trying to multitask a little bit. So you're just like, my attention is everywhere. That is a partly cloudy day. You'll type that into the chat. Or are you having a stormy day? Right? Is today just not the day for you? Maybe this moment is not the moment for you. Maybe you woke up to some irritating emails. Maybe as soon as you walk into the office, before you could even set your coffee down, somebody start getting on your nerve today, asking you some questions, right? Maybe it's just not it for you today. All of that is valid. I just want to know how you feeling. So type into the chat, are you having a stormy day? Are you having a partly cloudy day? Or are you having a sunshine day? Check in with me and let me know how you are feeling. I see some answers coming in here. Now, some folks are using emojis. I love it. You can emoji me up. You can type it up. Whatever you feel works for you. All right. So I see some partly cloudy, some partly cloudy. Antonio says sunshiny day here. I love it. Hey, Angela. Angela says partly cloudy day. Got a lot of things going on. My mind, look, deadline before 11 a.m. Everybody meets. Angela, woo, I feel you on that. And we got space for you here. So I understand. Barbara is having a sunshiny day. I love it. All right. Kisia is having a partly cloudy / sunny day. Okay. Christina, partly cloudy, a little sunny. Okay. Tanika says partly cloudy with some scattered showers. I'm sending you love. Jaquita says sunshiny day. Jesse, sunshine, got my coffee. I love it. I love it. Okay. Rose says it's a sunny day. I love it. Okay, listen. Guess what, y'all? So far, no one said it is just completely storming. So I will absolutely take it. Nancy says, feeling a little sick. I'm sending you so much positive energy, healing vibes to you, Nancy, hoping you feel better. Okay, so no one said, Shavon, it's just completely storming. So I'll take that. And even if you did say it was just completely storming, listen, that's valid, right? So there's space for you here. Thank you for letting me know how you're feeling today. I think it's important. I always like to start with a check-in because I just want to know, like, what's the vibe today? Because it helps me kind of gauge your level of participation, right? If it's just like, sis, today not my day, I could be like, oh, maybe you're not really gonna participate. And that's okay. Just let me know. So I always like to do a check-in. I would say today, what type of day am I having? That's a really good question. I'm gonna go ahead and say partly cloudy, but with a little bit more sunshine, then the clouds. My morning started off a little rough. My son woke up and just was not having it today, but that's okay. He got it together, went to daycare, and now my day is starting to look up. I moved my office, so now I have a window here to be able to actually look out and see outside. So that makes me feel good. Plus, I'm here with you all, and that also brightens my day as well. Kiana says partly cloudy. Trinice says sunny day. I love it. Well, thank you all for the check-in. That is very helpful to me and for me. We're going to do a quick warm-up activity. Now, here's what I also want you to know. We're going to do a lot of breakout rooms today. I know some of y'all might be like, oh, yeah, oh, breakout rooms. I know y'all, I promise. I totally understand it. However, it's not going to be me like, sending y'all with homework and stuff. It's just going to, the point is we're going to have a discussion. All right, so I'm going to give you all an opportunity to do some breakout rooms today so that you all can talk a little bit more about this information, really deep dive into it in some small groups, and then bring it back and let us know your takeaways. Because it's hard to really foster really great discussion when we're all here together, because it's hard to hear everyone. So we are going to hop into some breakout rooms today just to really have some great discussion. So we're going to do a warm up. I'm going to put you, actually, I'm not going to put you, I'm going to allow you to choose. I want to open up 5 breakout rooms. You get to self-select which breakout room you would like to go in. We are going to discuss 5 emotions. So the breakout rooms are named for a different emotion. The 5 emotions are going to be joy, fear, anger, disgust, or sadness. And what you're going to do, I want you to, when it's time, you're going to select which one of those emotions would you like to explore a little bit more today. You get to self-select this. Here's the thing, all y'all can end up in the same breakout room, and that would be a-okay for me. Okay, so when I open up the breakout rooms, you all are going to self-select. You can choose whichever breakout room you want to go in. It's joy, fear, anger, disgust, or sadness. You're going to choose the breakout room that you want to explore that emotion a little bit further. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to let you get into your breakout rooms. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to get in and get settled. Then I am going to send a question for you all to discuss. I'm going to broadcast it. So when I send a broadcast to the room, it should show up like on the top as like a little like announcement in a sense. But here are some questions I'm going to ask you all to think about. I want you to, think about how like how this emotion makes you feel. Right? So that's what you're going to start out discussing, how this emotion makes you feel, right? And then I'll send some additional questions. I'm going to ask you probably about 5 questions. So just FYI, you'll see different broadcasts coming from me. Okay. That was a lot of information. I totally understand. Go ahead and hit me with an emoji. These reactions are down at the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Go ahead and hit me with an emoji, or you can type into the chat. Give me a thumbs up if you are like, Shavon, I get what we're about to do. You can give me a thumbs down or an angry face if you're just like, girl, I still don't know what you just said. And I will repeat the instructions. So thumbs up if you are good to go. Thumbs down or sad face or a cry, whatever, if you're just like, I have no clue what we're about to do. I see okay, I see thumbs up. Okay, I see thumbs up. Perfect. No one is crying or telling me to stop. Amazing. So I'm going to open up these rooms. All right, all of the rooms are open. You should see an option for you to self-select. It should pop up on your screen somewhere. If that doesn't pop up for you, no worries. You can just tell me which room you want to be in. So feel free to select a room. I see some people starting to hop into the room. And again, if you're just like, girl, I don't know where it went, no worries. You just type it into the chat and I will put you in the room. So I'm going to give it about a minute and allow people an opportunity to get into their rooms, introduce yourselves. I got you, Tanika. I will put you in there. It's time to. There we go. And if anyone is having trouble, I got you, Barbara. I got you all. All right. Barbara says, just put me in a room. I got you, Barbara. All righty. Wonderful.
More and more of that. But when I am angry,
Damn. Welcome back, everyone. We're just waiting for a few more folks to come on back and join us. All right, we have everyone back. Okay, hopefully you all had an opportunity to get to know each other, to talk a little bit about some of the emotions. I will say something that I thought very, very interesting. When I asked the question of like, which emotions would you all like to explore further today? Like, people were not interested in exploring joy. That was very interesting to me. I was just like, plenty of people about to hop in today. Y'all want to talk about the happy stuff. Nobody really focused on talking about like the upbeat, like happy stuff. So that's interesting to me. People were more interested in exploring anger, fear, and disgust. I found that very, very interesting. Just a little tidbit. Okay, so I'm going to allow anyone to share, right? First of all, I want someone to share as you feel comfortable. What prompted you to choose the emotion that you chose?
Are we just supposed to speak out right now?
Yep. Sure.
Okay. Okay. So my name is Christina Greer. I work with Peace Education Program, and we go into schools and work on conflict resolution, peer mediation, navigators, mentoring. So I just figured, since we're dealing with conflict and that deals a lot with anger and also a lot of these other emotions, I wanted to go into the anger room just to possibly learn a little more so I can then take it back and work with the young little kiddos I work with.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christina, for sharing that. Did anything interesting come up in the conversation as you all were talking about, you know, how does it feel to feel this emotion? Even talking about like, what emotion do you like feeling? Like anything interesting, anything catch your ear?
Yeah, so in our group, the joy and happy was a common, and peace was a common emotion that we liked feeling. And for me, I'm able to relate that to my work because we work with groups of students and we work through cooperative games and learning. And so we're feeling those joy and happy moments when we're learning through the games and lessons. And then actually the students, like you hear the kids saying like, oh, this is fun, or, oh, you know, so that was relatable. And then I've been through a lot of trainings over the last month or two, and I keep hearing about mindfulness and self-care. So that was another topic that one of our group members had mentioned, and a few of us were like, ditto. Yeah, I hope I answered that question.
You did, absolutely. There is no wrong way to answer the question. So thank you. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to, we'll take one more person. Anyone else want to share and let us know which room you chose and maybe why you chose it?
Hey, Jesse here from Traeger Family, JCC, JCL. I chose disgust. And the reason I did is because I felt like you can be disgusted with certain things or facets of someone, but generally you're not disgusted with that person's essence. There's like an action or a word or something. You're like, I don't like that. And I don't like it because it makes me feel some type of way. And we got discussing about the pandemic and how we kind of were disgusted with ourselves in certain circumstances. And how we had these avoidant behaviors where we all became experts in bread making, or we all became this amazing dog sitter or cat sitter or we got an animal just to avoid whatever emotion we're feeling, whatever disgust we're feeling about the situation at hand. So I was like, huh, I totally feel that, you know?
Interesting. Thank you, Jesse, for sharing that. Let me tell you, I definitely got disgusted with myself during this pandemic. So you're right, and we're gonna explore more about these emotions in ourselves, because as I said earlier, when we're able to become more self-aware of how these feelings show up in ourselves and thinking about how we manage it, thinking about what that feels like, it's easier to have a little bit more empathy when they start to show up in other people, right? When they show up in our young people, then it's like, ooh, okay, I know how I felt when this thing came up, and I remember what I needed to do with my hands, or I remember what my body felt like. So let me show a little bit of empathy to this 10-year-old who is experiencing these big emotions and may not have the tools and the skills that I have to manage. So we are going to explore what this feels like in ourselves as well. So thank you so much for sharing this. What I'd like to see who answers this, but I want to know, what are some ways you all deal with challenging, big, difficult emotions? Feel free to either type that into the chat, or you can unmute yourself at any time. What are some ways you all deal with big, difficult, challenging emotions?
Are you asking in regards to ourselves? Or
Yourself.
other people? Oh, okay.
Yourself.
This is Barbara from Wesley House. Normally I guess this is
Oh, hey, Barbara, we heard you.
we do or we practice is we just take 5. It's one of the things that we came up with for ourselves and for our children. Maybe go outside, have a walk around the building. We have a lot of open space. So, if you need to yell, scream, or whatever, it gives you a safe space to get that out and channel, just like sometimes just yelling and screaming just to get out whatever that big emotion is at that particular moment. So we just have a thing that we do this for myself and my students is take 5. Sometimes you just have to walk away from the situation, give yourself room to express whatever that negative emotion it is, holler, scream, do whatever you do, feel you need to do in a safe space that protects you and everybody else. Then once you're able to get out that big burst of whatever that emotion is, now you can sort of inhale a couple of deep breaths and sort of, refocus, recenter, and look at the situation from a different perspective.
Okay, thank you so much, Barbara. So taking 5, right? Just taking a step back, take a little time. Awesome. Allowing yourself to feel the emotion, right? And then I heard you say, Barbara, hey, like once I have a moment to just kind of feel it, let it go, let that energy out, then maybe I can look at the situation from a different perspective, a different angle. Okay. Jesse types breathing, right? Disrupting the cycle, like just breaking it up, right? So just going through some somatic breathing exercises can be really, really helpful. Christina says, taking a break, like Jesse, breathing, deep breaths in and out. Oh, and music. Okay, awesome. I want to also say you all are typing some really beautiful youth development professional answers, right? Let's get real for a moment. When Shavon has big, difficult, challenging emotions, you know how she deals? She curses a lot, right? She goes in a corner and she cries, okay? I went through a very big, difficult, challenging emotions last week, and I was literally about to have a full-on panic attack because I could not regulate my nervous system. I did not know what to do with my body. I literally could not be still. My wife was just like, could you stop moving? And I was just like, I can't, right? I literally don't know what to do with my body. My son had to be admitted into the hospital and it was too much for me. Like I couldn't cry. I wanted to cry. I couldn't cry. I was trying to breathe. Just was not working. I was like, these people about to have to give me a Vicodin or something because I don't know how to manage myself right now. And I am grown. Right? I am a grown adult and got to a point where I was like, I don't know what to do in this moment. let's think about our young people. How do you think they're dealing with big, difficult, challenging emotions? They don't have all of the tools that we have. I love the breathing exercises. That sounds amazing. I know my big grown self, when I was having a very, very, very difficult moment this was just last week. If someone would have come in my face and said, Shavon, let's just take some breaths together, I probably would have cursed you out and been like, if you don't get the out of my face right now, I don't want to, right? Like, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not about to breathe. I'm not about to breathe. I don't know what to do right now. So I want us to think too, like it happens. It really happens. Sometimes we can know all the tools and not use them. Right? Sometimes we like, don't give me the tool right now. I'm not in the space to use it. So I just want us to think about our young people. Have you ever been trying to take some of these beautiful take 5 and breathing exercises and woosah moments? Have you tried to take them to your young people and they done looked at you like, if you don't get that out my face? Has happened to me, right? Because sometimes as we're going through the emotion, we're in survival mode. First of all, you can't even identify the emotion. I don't even know what this is right now. I know it's not my normal. Because if we can't identify the emotion, that's where the challenge lies. Because it's like, I don't even know how I'm feeling. I don't know if I'm angry. I don't know if I'm sad. I don't know if I'm disgusted. I just know it's not right. So it's kind of, that's the frustration when you can't even identify what it is. So it's like, don't give me a solution because I don't even know what the problem is right now, but it happens. So and we're going to normalize this for a moment to say, sometimes we don't have an answer for how we deal with the big, challenging, difficult emotions. Sometimes the answer is, I am just trying to survive the emotion right now. My goal is to get through the moment. How do I survive this moment, this minute? Sometimes that's all we can ask for from our young people, is to say, hey, you know what? Let's just work through this moment. Like, can we get through this minute? If we can literally take this 60 seconds at a time, how will that work for us? And again, I'm not here to tell you I have all the answers. Oh, I'm not here to do that at all. I'm simply here today to facilitate some really great discussion and also to hear from you all about like how this shows up in ourselves and how maybe it shows up in our work. So we're going to get into this. Thank you all so much for, participating in this warm-up activity, because we're going to explore these emotions a lot more, right? So here are some of our objectives that we're going to be exploring as we go through this information today. The goal of this workshop is so that you understand a framework for social emotional learning, like in general, and really the emotional domain specifically. We're also going to list common emotions and how they're frequently experienced in our bodies. Again, we are really going to spend most of this time talking about what this looks like in ourselves, and then we'll relate it to our young people. We'll practice some skills for identifying hot buttons, right? And self-regulation when experiencing emotional activation. Understand the role past experiences and social identities play in how people experience and interpret the emotions of others. Identify techniques for modeling empathy and emotion management in your organizations. We're going to talk about planning some next steps for how do we incorporate these concepts that we've learned about emotional awareness into the work and with our youth and in our programs. And then we're going to assess readiness to implement empathy and emotion management skills with our young people. So we're going to explore all of these things during our time together. Here's a quick agenda. So we went over our welcome, we set the stage. We're going to do an opening activity. And we're really going to explore the central ideas of this. So we're going to talk about Atlas of Emotions. We're going to talk about those 5 emotions that we just kind of touched the tip of the iceberg on. We're going to explore those a lot more. And I'm going to give you some background, and we're going to do some activities to kind of really bring all of that home and how we feel it about ourselves, and also how we take this back, to the work. And then we're gonna do some reflections and close it out. Little housekeeping here. I always tell people, take care of yourself. Do whatever you need to do. We're talking about emotions, right? So sometimes people get triggered by things. If something comes up and you find that, whoo, Chad, this done triggered me, I need to take a break, walk away, do what you need to do. Take a break. If you have a moment and you're just like, whoo, Shavon, give me a second. Let me turn this little camera. Let me hop off camera right quick. You know, do what you have to do. Whenever you're ready, feel free to join us again. You know, engage as best as possible. I tell people this training is for you. This training is for you to get out of it, whatever it is that you need. There may be some things that you're just like, girl, I don't need that. That's fine. There may be some things where you're just like, oh, that was a good nugget. Let me take that. I always tell people, take whatever it is that you need and leave the rest. This says, please silence your cell phones, but I'm going to switch it to say, I really would encourage you to try to fully engage. I know that when we do these virtual meetings, right, these virtual trainings, it's just like I have one screen up with the training, my other screen has my email, I'm checking my text messages, I'm probably scrolling Facebook and Instagram to see what's going on, right? Twitter's still going off about the queen, so I'm trying to check up on that too. I would encourage you to fully engage in this training while you can and try to minimize distractions as much as possible, and really just give yourself that time. This is for you. So give yourself whatever it is that you need to really be fully present in this moment. And then questions. So parking lot, we're going to use our chat as our parking lot, right? So if any questions come up throughout this training, you can feel free to type those into the chat at any time, and I'm going to try my best to capture the question, answer it at the time if I can, or I will put it over to the side so I can make sure I answer it or we get to it at least later on. But I want to make sure that we have a space to answer any of your questions here. So here are some group agreements. We're going to agree, right, that learning is social. So that basically says we're here to learn from one another. I'm here to learn from you. You're here to learn from this training. So that's what we mean by learning is social. No one is higher than anyone else. We're all learning together. Learning is emotional. We honor the emotions that we bring into this space as we engage. Like I did a check-in with you earlier to see, like, how are you feeling today? I want to honor you. I want to honor you and whatever, you know, we're talking about emotion management today. So I want to honor whatever emotion you're bringing to the space today. That's okay. Learning is an emotional thing. Learning is cognitive. We want to give this our attention and we really want to fully engage our minds. Now, here's a really important note. We also fully recognize that in so many different ways, life experiences, bias, racism, geography, cultural backgrounds, age, gender, all of those things can impact and affect our learning experiences today. Those things matter because they really, you know, impact what you bring to the table, how you view the world. So we honor every difference, you know, that we have here today. We want to acknowledge that and say that, you know, we know that we're all bringing those things to the table. We're going to do a quick activity because now I want you all to tell me, what do you need here today? We're going to do some group agreements. If you click the link right there, I just put in the chat, it's going to take you to a Jamboard. And in this Jamboard, you're simply going to tell me, Shavon, this is what I need in this space today to maximize my learning. And we're going to agree to honor whatever it is each individual on this training needs. And you can say anything. You can say things like, Shavon, I need a break. You know, I need a lot of breaks. Shavon, I need no judgment, right? Shavon, I need this to end on time. Like, I want to honor whatever it is that you need there. So if you click the link, it'll take you to the Jamboard. If anybody's having any trouble accessing that link, let me know. And then just go ahead. I see some people starting to type. You can put a sticky note up there. You can type it in a text box, whatever. But I want you to let me know, what is it that you need here today in this space?
And really quick, if you've never used Jamboard before, so once you go to the link on the left, you'll see like the different tools that you can use. And the fourth one down, that is the sticky note. And so if you click that and you write in it, then you should be able to post the sticky note onto the Jamboard. Again, open the link and then go to the left and you'll see the toolbar, and the fourth one down, that is the sticky note tool. So click that and then write into it.
All right, so here's a sticky note right here. You can see me, boop, and then it pops up. And then you type and it posts, and you can choose whatever color you like. And thank you so much, Antonio, for that explanation. So you all should be able to see my screen with our Jamboard up. So I'm actually going to give us about 60 seconds where I'm not going to say anything. And I'm going to let you put whatever it is that you need, and then we will agree to it. So put my timer up and I'm going to shut up. I'm going to give us about 30 more seconds. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, we got some things on the board here. All right, let's see what you all wrote, and then we are going to snap it up and agree. All right, someone says, I need some grace and understanding. Listen, me too. I like that. I also need some grace and understanding with this training as well. I love it. Someone says, I need all the knowledge you can offer today from everyone. Ooh, I love it. Learning is powerful. Okay, so someone says, give me all the things. Someone says, I need mindful movement breaks. Thank you for that reminder to have some breaks so we can get up and move our bodies. Yes. Someone says, I'm really not sure yet. I know I'm here for a reason. I honor that today to say, I actually don't really know what I need today, but I know I'm just here. I love it. All right. Someone says resources to use and to share. Yes. Someone says, I need breaks. Yes. Someone says good explanations. Okay. Someone says resources. Absolutely. Someone says no specifics, just here to listen and learn. I honor that. Thank you. Someone says clarity. I like that. Okay. Someone says, I need my microphone to work. I really hope you can get your microphone to work, whomever you are. But if not, type in the chat and we will make it work from there as well. But thank you. And then someone else says, I need breaks. Okay, awesome. So let us do a collective agreement. If you can go ahead and click the thumbs up emoji for me, the little reaction, thumbs up reaction, that is going to let me know Thank you. I see some thumbs up there. All right, that just let me know that we all agree. This is what we agree to collectively. I agree to this as well. Let me find my little, there we go. There's my thumbs up. Alrighty. I'm going to do my thumbs up too, as soon as I can get to it. And I am also agreeing. Oh, sure. Let's do that one. All right. Thanks. That's just me saying I agree. Okay, so I'm going to stop share there. Thank you all so much. I honor you and what you need, and I am here to make sure that I can also, provide exactly what it is that you need here in this training today. All right, so I'm going to go back to sharing my slides. It's going to start me over, so I'm going to go back in this again, go through these slides again really quickly. All right, there we go. Perfect. So now we are going to do we're going to do another activity. We're going to talk about exploring some emotions. All right. So what I want you all to do, I'm actually going to open up some breakout rooms again. Here we go. All right. So what you all are going to do, and for those of you who either missed joining a breakout room, or maybe you were in a breakout room by yourself, I'm going to put you in an actual room with some other folks. But what you're going to do, you're going to go back to your same breakout rooms. We're going to do a lot of going back to the same breakout room today. So you're going to go back to your breakout room, and what you all are going to do, the emotion that you all chose to do a little bit further exploration, you all are going to talk about it, answer some questions. And what I want you to do, we're going to use a Jamboard. You all can have your own screen. You can use pictures. You can use words. You can use phrases. You can use symbols. You can use whatever medium you need to use to answer the questions that are on this Jamboard. Okay, give me 1 second. Let me get out of all of these, here we go, these links that are open. All right. So I'm going to share this link with you all in the chat. Here we go. Y'all, I just got all type of stuff popping up on my screen. There we go. Woo. All right, so go ahead and everybody click that link and open it. And we're going to click it and go over it before I put you back into your breakout rooms, just so that you can see, and I'll share my screen for that as well. You all are going to get in your Jamboard. So if you, up here, you can see these arrows. Every emotion has their own little page. So we have joy, sadness, anger, disgust, fear, right? And then that's blank. So everyone has their own page, and you are going to look at these questions. So how would you define your emotion? What purpose does your emotion serve? Why do you feel it? What response does it elicit in ourselves and others? Where is your emotion felt in your body? What sensations are associated with it? What do you notice about people's faces when they are experiencing your emotion? And then what are words that capture the intensity of this emotion? For example, anger could be annoyed, mad, or furious. So on your page for your emotion, you and your team will be answering these questions. Again, you can use words, phrases, pictures, symbols. You can use whatever it is you need to use to answer these questions. right here on your page. And then you all are going to present whatever you came up with to the rest of us when we come back together. I am actually going to give you all about 10 to 11 minutes in your groups to be able to do this. If you need a little bit more time, let me know, and we will go ahead and give you a little bit more time. But remember, you're going to be back in your groups that you selected at the beginning, because this is the emotion that you're going to do a little bit more further exploration on. Go ahead and hit me with a thumbs up if you understand what we're about to do. I'm gonna stop share here so I can see. If you understand what we're about to do, you're good to go. You're ready to hop back into those breakout rooms. Hit me with a thumbs up there. Here are the breakout rooms. I see thumbs up. All right, perfect. Again, you're gonna have about 10 to 11 minutes in your breakout rooms for you all to answer those questions with your group. And for those of you, I do have a few people who are in rooms by themselves. I am going to put you in a different room with people. All right. Those rooms are open. Feel free to hop in. My timer up.
That was hilarious.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right. So I see, scrolling through, I see some things. I'm going to share my screen and then we're going to go ahead and present. I'm going to have the groups present what they came up with. So hopefully you all have a spokesperson for your presentation. So let me share our Jamboard here. All right, so these were our questions here. There we go. Here were our questions. Just defining the emotions, the purpose of those emotions, where it's felt in the body or sensations associated with it. Maybe what do we notice on people's faces when they're experiencing the emotion, and any words that could capture the intensity. All right, so we're going to start with anger. And I know anger had a part 2 as well. So I'm gonna allow you all to get through part 1, and then I will also pivot to part 2 for your presentation. So anyone from the anger group, feel free to go ahead and present.
Would anybody like to volunteer? Alrighty, so I'll go ahead and do it for us. So for anger, for the definitions that we said, so we got highly upset, anger, an emotion that ignites and burns quickly. We got silence, exhausting, and then we also have the graphic there that I interpret as kind of like being explosive. And then for the second question, I think it was like the purpose and like the emotion or something that it elicits from someone else, like the response. So we got, it brings up wanted and unwanted responses, and also expected and unexpected responses, validity, and frustration and powerless. Anger serves as a tool to access inner strength and truth, brings awareness to conflict resolution. Without anger, there is no conflict, and without conflicts, we don't know we need a resolution. And then anger typically elicits anger from others or fear. And the results is a result of loss, result of discouragement, and ability to express feelings. Hopefully it will open up communication. Okay? And then where it's felt in our bodies, we said in our hands and in our mouths and tongues because of like fights and verbal expressions. Some people said all over. Feel it as fatigue, increased blood pressure, upper body tension sometimes resides in our shoulders and neck, tightening of chest, headaches, panic attacks, and unsure, uncomfortable, and sometimes worried, especially since I normally don't get to anger. And then our part 2. So what's the look on other people's faces when they experience this? We got, they look angry too or fearful. They may be making the face in response to our behavior, angry face, and then lips tighten, eyebrows raise, eyebrows come together, and they mirror the image that they see on the other person. And then we didn't get much time to do the words associated with it, but it was like pissed and that up. And if anybody else from our group would like to chime in and give words associated, because I know we ran out of time on that one. Feel free.
Awesome. Well, thank you to the anger group. This was good. Thank you. We're going to, well, you know what, we'll talk about it really quickly now. We'll debrief here with each group. All right, so anger, right? You all got a lot of information, definitions, purpose, felt in our bodies, word association, looks on people's faces. This is really good. I would love to hear from you all, whether you were in the group or even if you're not in the group. Let's have a whole group discussion about it. How has anger shown up in your young people? How has it looked in your young people? Is this familiar? Do you see something that maybe is not here as, represented as anger, and you're just like, oh, I have seen anger and my young people look like something else? How's it shown up in your young people?
I like to speak. My name is Kisa Hatcher. I'm the CEO of Hatching House Mentoring Services.
Hi, Keisha.
And hi, a lot of my students have shown up with, of course, they're traumatized. And so it's anger, aggression. They're in fight or flight, so they're not learning. And so a lot of the things we have to deal with is like mental health and making sure that they are checking in and making sure that they are okay. Because once you have identified that thought or that feeling, then you can correct the behavior. So just knowing those basics really helps.
Awesome.
And so,
So I hear you say the trauma, right? Like anger can show up, it can be the trauma that's showing up, the fight or flight. I like how you said we have to identify the emotion, because once we identify, then we can have a better idea of like, well, where do we go from here? Now that we've identified that you are experiencing some anger, we can maybe process what that is and figure out how do we kind of come back to our center there. Awesome. Anyone else want to share, like, how has anger shown up in your young people?
I'll speak to that. My name is Trinice Walton, and I am a family support specialist with Urban Strategies in the Russell community. I actually work with youth and mainly adults as well. But anger is really showing up in adults, and I think a lot of it is from childhood experiences. So sometimes when I work with families, sometimes that anger is transferred from the adults to the kids. So it's almost generational. And I think the anger in the adults that I deal with, when I say adults, I'm speaking of all ages, and a lot of them are 55 and up, has dissolved into depression. So it's almost like it's shifting, like they couldn't really release the anger. So now it's another emotion, or sometimes it's a combination of both, just wrapped all up into one. So from day to day,
I'm Demetrius McDowell, Bosses Not Bangers. And I think it's the times that we living in with our youth. Social media is normalizing any type of emotions. It's like once upon a time, news was intriguing for us to get on and watch the news. But if you can see a dead body every day on social media, or you see fights every day on social media, then what's a fight, or what's bad words or bad language or disrespect when everybody's doing it? And it becomes normalized to where the kids nowadays don't see that they're doing nothing wrong, because you got parents doing TikTok with disrespectful songs. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Demetrius. And I just wanted to double check. Trinice, were you finished?
Yes,
I apologize. I thought she did. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
I just wanted to double check.
Okay, yes, I'm cool.
Okay, I definitely just wanted to double check. Thank you, Demetrius. Thank you, Trinice, for that. I see Tanika said anger is their ego. No, she said not ego. That's me saying ego. Anger is their go-to emotion and their first choice, even though it's another emotion. Awesome. I see we talk about like how it shows up and maybe where it's felt. Has anyone seen the anger show up as physical, right? Like throwing stuff. Like I don't know about y'all. I done seen a 6-year-old throw some tables, right? Like, when folk get angry, they get the strength of Thor, right? Listen, y'all, I have a almost 2-year-old. My son will be 2 on Sunday. And they had put him on some medication last week because he wasn't feeling well. And the medication altered his moods. And he didn't know how to express it. But y'all, my son got he got the strength of God. Seems like it took about 4 of us to try to hold him down. And my wife and I were like, where is this strength coming from? He was very irritated and upset. And it was just, it became, I like this explosive, thing here, became explosive, right? So I've seen anger show up as a lot of strength. You like, oh man, this person is they're upset, they're taking it out. It can be volatile. I see also, we're talking about where it's felt in our bodies. I love to ask this question to people, and I love to key in to where people are feeling anger in their body, especially our young people, because it helps me know, like, what do they need at the time. You all have seen stress balls. I used to didn't understand, like, why do people have these stress balls and these, manipulatives and stuff? It's because people, we feel so much in our hands. It's like, I need to do something with my hands. So if you have a young person and they can tell you, I feel it in my hands, how can you assist them? Like, what can you do with that information? And that's a question to the group.
I think it's good to have like things like tools for them to be able to kind of transfer those emotions over to, like, I know some places actually have like punching bags, and they'll have different things where they could like throw balls at walls and just different things. So where, like, one of those, that one thing that I can't remember what it's called, where you hit it and it bounces and it comes back up. What's that? I don't know the actual term, but having things like that present, so that when they do feel something, they have somewhere to channel, those emotions, and not like on each other and stuff like that. So just having those tools and things for them to be able to do that, and also having activities planned to where they could actually, express some emotions. There's a lot of different activities that has those type of elements in them. And so giving opportunities, for young people to be able to take part in that is helpful too.
I like that. Thank you, Antonio, right? I am a believer, y'all. I wish every place could have a rage room for kids, right? Like, those rage rooms are so popular now, which I think it's very valid. Sometimes people just need to feel like they can just start tearing some stuff up. When I used to work at a Boys and Girls Club here in my area, we had a few young people, kind of similar to what you were saying, Antonio. We would take them into, where we had like the punching bags and stuff. And it was just like, go ahead, right? Like, tear it up, do what you have to do, because sometimes that's how they need to get it out. But I also love to hear you say, and there are activities that exist that we can say, all right, well, cool, let's move into doing something with your hands. I saw Barbara typed into the chat, they do butterfly stretches or punch Play-Doh, right? Like some type of something where we can allow them to expend this energy that they are feeling in their hands. Or if a young person says, I feel it in my feet. Like for me, I can't be still. I am a pacer. So like, I know if I'm having a really challenging moment, I tell people, let me move. Like, do not, if you tell me to be still, that is just going to trigger me even more. I need to move my body. I need to pace back and forth. So I have to pace. I need to move. Sometimes I used to see people being like, okay, just be still. Just calm down, just be still. Like, well, they can't be still. Right? Like, it's just like, I feel all of these things in my body. My body is telling me I need movement. And you sitting here telling me to be still. That is going against everything that my nervous system is telling me that I need. So as we're talking about how this can show up, I want you all to just start thinking about, okay, how can I add some resources into my program where if I'm seeing some anger, we can have an action plan, because we know it can be felt in all these different ways and it can show up in all these different ways. So maybe I can start to have some options for our young people to tap into, because when we think about the purpose and the responses for anger, you all really brought some really great things, right? It could be the result of some loss. Someone I saw here, you all talked about, it means that there's a conflict. And if we didn't have conflict, we wouldn't know that a solution is needed. So instead of us looking at our young people expressing anger as a bad thing, we can look at it as an indicator that something is needed. This person is expressing the best way that they know how, that a resolution is needed. It is my job to try to work with this young person to figure out how do we get to the resolution. I really love that you all says it's a tool. So utilizing and shifting our thinking to say this can be a tool. This is great. Thank you all so much for this. Let's look at discuss. I'm going to move this one just a little bit. All right, our group for disgust. Who wants to present?
Oh, I'll do it.
Well, go right ahead.
Okay, so we got some discussed. And that little face that you moved, I thought it was just absolutely appropriate because sometimes we just feel like I'm dead. I can't deal with it. I don't want to. It's a knee-jerk reaction. We talked about how we define disgust. It's very temporary, usually. It's quick. It happens right away. It's very sudden. It's like we said, a knee-jerk reaction. It also has this idea of we mentioned fitness increasing, like it's a future avoidance behavior. We know we don't like it now, so we obviously won't like it in the future, right? That's just the go-to that we get to it. It makes us very uncomfortable and it just gets on your nerves. It just gets under your skin, right? So the first things that we thought of were COVID. That really got under our skin and just a lot of PTSD from that, a lot of trauma that comes from the idea of being sequestered or contained for so long. And then we also talked about, for me at least, I don't know if I speak for everybody, but for me, Roe versus Wade came to my head instantly because I am disgusted with how America, that decision. And of course, I guess I have not much to say about it because I'm just disgusted. So I'll let that one hang in the air, I suppose. We also talked about how it can serve as a protection. Once you have felt it, you stay away from it, which is that future avoidance that we talked about. And then our location, about where we feel it, it's all over. It's a physical movement. It could be something that is you double over because it's just so gross. We feel in our taste buds. We talked about how sometimes we taste something, we just hate it. So we definitely don't want to feel it or taste it later. There's also a cognitive response, that emotional component to it. In terms of the actual physical response, it can be like in the face. We see like, oh, the gross face scrunch. And then we also talked about how it has a bodily reaction. So we chatted about how we just want to have a fist and sometimes we just want to punch something because that just disgust wells up and we can't contain it. So it has the emotion, the kinetic energy has to go somewhere in that. You can also see that there is this lovely little stomach. So we obviously feel that psychosomatic feelings in our stomach with all the different types of hormones that you can produce simply from that disgust reaction. We got this lovely little like gross eyes in the bottom here, just hanging out in the bottom. And then lastly, we also talked about how that cognitive response, this is how our brain kind of feels. Every center lights up, that occipital lobe, we see something. The prefrontal cortex is discovering what that means. And then we go on from there. Our reptilian brain may have that idea of, oh, I don't like it, I can't like it, I don't want to talk about it. And our mammalian brain just doesn't react as strongly because of those really innate feelings that we have, that fight or flight response, and freeze as well. Is there more? I think that's it, right?
Awesome.
Ta-da.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jesse, for sharing. For our group would discuss. And again, I'll open this up to the group for discussion. What could that look like in your young people? Is there something here that you're just like, I've seen this, it shows up in my young person, you don't see it like listed here? Antonio says, Jesse, you have a neuroscience background. He hears you using all of the brain terms, right? He said the psychosomatic, right? Reptilian brain. Jesse is here educating us on all things brain development. It's okay. Jesse says, I also talk real quick. Nope, we got it.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No need to apologize. We followed you.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else want to share, like, how can discuss show up, or how has it looked in your young people in your program? I know, like, for me, I've seen kids throw up. You talk about that bodily reaction, like disgust, like you physically, you're throwing up, you are disgusted. Maybe you're disgusted by food. Maybe, right? Like sometimes we're just like, ugh, this food is nasty. You throw up. I love you put the stomach here, talking about the way our body works, right? Because stomach ache. Like I can get a stomach ache when I'm mad. I can get a stomach ache when I'm disgusted. Like I get a stomach ache when I'm happy. The way my body responds, very interesting.
I typically, excuse me, I'm sorry, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I typically see the disgust in young people when it comes to the like socially with the LGBTQ plus community. Kids don't, have the best filters and are typically, express how they feel, as we all know. And so, and this is in young kids. Like I remember, I can recall 8-year-olds saying, telling me not to sit next to some kiddos like they were males, and kind of had some what we would call like feminine traits, and they were like, don't sit next to him, don't sit over there, because they had that feeling of disgust. And also with the teenagers, I saw that they were very expressive towards our trans youth. And so once they get around, like they don't really know how to cope. And if it's something that they're not used to, or accustomed to, they're disgusted by that. And so you see like the social isolation that happens with this emotion. And, even when it comes to racism as well, like with disgust, it almost seems like there's some isolation that takes place, and some separation where you don't want to be associated with things that disgust you.
Okay, thank you for that. That's interesting. And I want you, Antonio, if you can, I want to ask for you to maybe bring that same scenario back up a little bit later on, because then I think it'll be a good example for us to explore when we get to a different activity. So I love how you talked about the isolation and the separation. Maybe discuss, because it's here, we see it as protection, right? If I'm disgusted by something, that is telling me my emotions are saying I need to protect you from something, right? So whatever the situation, they can see it as like, hey, Miss Antonio, I don't think you should sit next to that person because, right? Protect yourself. I'm trying to protect myself, because of however they've justified that in their mind. So if we see some separation or some isolation happening from some things, and someone says they're disgusting, maybe our empathetic mind can say, what are they trying to protect themselves from? Like what's going on here where you feel like maybe you need to protect yourself from something. Okay. And I think earlier, Jesse, you had you talked about maybe not really being disgusted with the actual person, like not their essence. I'm not disgusted with Antonio as a whole. I am just disgusted by an action. I am maybe disgusted by a word. I am disgusted by, an outfit you're wearing, or, so maybe disgust, you said it could be something temporary, it could be that knee-jerk reaction. And exactly, Jesse said, and that colors the entire experience. Absolutely. So it's like, I'm not disgusted with you as a whole. I don't even know you as a whole, but I see this one aspect. It really disgusts me. And now I'm trying to protect myself in a way. So I'm behaving a little bit differently with this person than I would with someone else, where I may not feel like I need to protect myself. This is really, really great discussion. I want you all to keep these things in the front of your mind, because I think we're going to explore some of this in one of our other activities, because I think they'll be really great. So thank you. All right. And our last one for our group, fear. Anyone for the fear group want to share?
I can share. So defining fear, we said just afraid. The biggest one we said was the emotion of the unknown, and hesitation. Purpose. The purpose of fear is to alert to a situation, a prompt to get you to act, an attention getter. And responses in ourselves would be the hesitation, fight or flight. Others, we're unsure of how others would respond to us, to the fear. Maybe they would respond to us in a way of support. Where we see how we see fear, we see it in the eyes. There's blank stares, there's sweating. Some people have poker faces, crying. Those are some of the things we said. And we said that fear is associated we feel it's associated in the mind, in the chest areas. And again, gives us anger, anxiety, sweating, nervousness, and panic.
Awesome. Thank you. So fear, right? It's not knowing, right? It's the fear of like, well, I don't know what's coming next. I have no clue. Again, this is a protection thing, right? Like I'm afraid because I really don't know. My body is telling me, something's trying to protect me from something. An attention getter. I love that you all put that. Poker face. So we're talking about how, fear can show up on faces. I love that you all said it can show up as poker face, because I don't know about you all. I have seen that so many times before. I'm going to say this. I've seen that in my experience, in a lot of older men, like my dad, for example. My dad could be scared out of his mind. I would have no idea because he's sitting there just like, okay. Like we had a situation where the rest of my family, we were all like super scared. And my dad is just sitting there like, And it's like, how is this man? Like he has not blinked at all. But that doesn't mean that someone doesn't have some fear there. You know what else? Fear. I've seen people be afraid and they are laughing. Have you ever seen like that nervous, afraid laughter? It's just like, right? So someone could be laughing and they're still afraid, right? So sometimes fear isn't always this sadness or crying. Sometimes we can't always be like, that's fear. Fear can look like we're like, ooh, I don't know. Are you afraid or are you not afraid? I'm not sure, because it shows up differently in other people. For you all, how have you seen fear show up in your young people?
I would definitely say fear shows up a lot of times in anger. A lot of times when people are afraid, it's that fight or flight. I'm not running away from it. I'm going to react to it because it's an immediate response. So yeah, a lot of times the fear is translated as anger.
Yeah. So they could be afraid, but it's like it's coming off as aggressive, right? Because like you said, it's that fight or flight. Like, I'm scared, but I'm about to fight this thing out. But it could, like you said, it's I'm afraid. I don't know what else to do. And we're thinking about how it can show up or where it can show up in our bodies. It's just like, I don't know what these feelings are. My nervous system can't regulate this. So I just need some outward expression. Barbara typed, it can show up as crying. Yes, I've seen a lot of crying in programs as well in our youth, or a lot of hesitation to like enter a space. If something has happened and a young person is scared to like literally go into a room, it's just like, what's going on here? Why are you afraid? Like what's happened? You're afraid to even go into this room. Antonio says lying to avoid consequences that they fear. Woo! Yeah, absolutely right. That lying. Yep. Lisa says quiet. Ooh, yes. Fear can be quiet. Fear can be silent. Fear can have no words and no expression. So that's also really important. And the thing is, we're talking about the ways in which these emotions can show up. Not so that we can go into the space and be like, little Bobby, that's fear I see on your face right now. Or, hey, look, little Lisa, I see anger. No, it's just us having an understanding and awareness that these emotions can show up in so many different ways, right? So we've said fear can show up as anger. So is it fair for me to assume that a child is angry all the time? Maybe they're scared, right? Like, so it's just like, maybe I shouldn't assume that a person is experiencing some particular emotion unless they have shared that with me. Because I'm not gonna lie, like I've seen this a lot of times. I also do program assessments and evaluations. I've seen staff go into spaces with assumptions of like, oh, you got attitude today. Oh, so you mad today because you done came in here with your lip poking. Well, it's just like, but did you ask? Did you check in with that young person? Is that what they told you? Or are you assuming? Are you deducing how you think they're feeling based on what you're seeing? And as we're discussing, if we just assumed a person's emotion based on what we saw, we could be hitting the wrong mark a lot of the time. Because these things show up, they can show up. Laughter could be fear. And we think you happy. Oh, you so happy to be here. That warms my heart. No, they're afraid. That's a nervous laughter, right? So we don't know. Rose also said fear could look like shutdown. Whew. Isolation. Yes, Antonio had talked about that separation and isolation with disgust as well. Yeah, maybe we see it with fear. This is awesome. This is really great, healthy discussion. And we're going to talk about context of these emotions in a minute. But what I want to do, I want us to go ahead and we're going to take a 10-minute break. I want you to get up, move your body. Someone said that they needed some movement breaks. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes. It is 10:59. Let's say it's 11 a.m. We're going to come back at 11:10, and then we're going to hop into the next part of our presentation. So get up, move around, bathroom break, food, whatever you need to do. I'll see you in 10 minutes at 11:10. All right, everyone, it is 11:10. And so I want to honor our time here together today, and we are going to keep it moving with our presentation here. So I'm going to put it back up on our screen. Now, these next few slides, I'm going to go through because we're about to get into some of the, what we call the central ideas. So some of these, here we go. I'm going to go through a little quickly. All right. So we're going to talk about meeting your emotions. All right. So I do have a little YouTube video here that it's just a little cutesy clip. Let me pull it up back. Here we go.
And there she was. Hello. Riley.
Look at you. Aren't you a little bundle of joy? Aren't you a little bundle of joy?
Wow. It was amazing. Just Riley and me forever. For 33 seconds.
I'm going to pause this really quickly to say, someone typed and said they can't hear anything. Can anyone else not hear? Or is the audio pretty good? Awesome. Okay, I see some thumbs up. All right, Barbara, maybe try checking your volume to see if you can hear the video, but we're also going to talk about it. Hopefully it'll play now for you. Thank you all.
I'm sadness. Oh, hello. I'm Joy. So, can I just, if you could, I just want to fix that. Thanks. And that was just the beginning. Headquarters only got more crowded from there.
Very nice. Okay, looks like you got this. Very good. Well, let's look out!
That's Fear. He's really good at keeping Riley safe.
Easy, huh? Hi, back! Oh, we're good. We're good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we're back.
Here we go. All right, open.
This looks new.
Make it safe.
What is it? Okay, caution. There is a dangerous smell, people. Hold on, what is that? This is disgust. She basically keeps Riley from being poisoned, physically and socially. That is not brightly colored or shaped like a dinosaur. Hold on, guys. It's broccoli! Well, I just saved our lives. Yeah, you're welcome.
Riley, if you don't eat your dinner, you're not going to get any dessert. Wait, did he just say we couldn't have dessert?
That's anger. He cares very deeply about things being fair.
So that's how you want to play it, old man? No dessert? Oh, sure. We'll eat our dinner right after you eat this. Right. Here comes an airplane. Oh, airplane. We got an airplane, everybody.
And you've met Sadness. I'm not actually sure what she does. And I've checked, there's no place for her to go, so she's good, we're good, it's all great. Anyway, these are Riley's memories, and they're mostly happy, you'll notice, not to brag.
All right. So that was just a little, first of all, I love that movie. That is from Inside Out. If you've never seen that movie, it is actually it's a pretty good movie to talk about emotions. So just wanted to share that clip as we're talking about, these emotions. And I love it because it really shows our emotions as, really serving a purpose. And we talked about this in our last activity. Like what purpose? We know our emotions serve some type of purpose. So I love just that, hey, joy will step up and take over. Then all of a sudden, here comes anger, here comes fear, and they share. So we know that when something happens, this new emotion will pop up and get at the forefront to say, okay, what is this? I need to step up and take care, or take over here. And then once we kind of get back to, a regulated state, we could be a little calm again. So those are your emotions. Now we're going to talk about 5 basic emotions. We know that there are way more emotions than 5, but we're really going to focus on the 5 basic emotions today: anger, fear, joy, sadness, and disgust. I'm going to share this link. So I have a link for you all that will have this presentation as well as a workbook there that we are going to go through, and it has some information in there for you as well. I'm going to share this link with you if I can. There it is. All right, I'm going to grab this link because we are going to look at, there it is. So we are going to go through the workbook here. There's a little virtual workbook, and you can follow along some of the information that is in there. So let's talk about these emotions. We've discussed them a little bit. We know that each emotion kind of serves a purpose. Atlas of Emotions, if you've never heard of this before, right? It was a psychologist, a researcher that has done all of this research over the years and said, hey, we know that we're gonna kind of like divide all of our emotions up into these categories right here. What is his name? Paul Ekman. It came up with this atlas of emotions here. He was a psychologist. So we're talking about emotions and facial expressions, and there's a range of emotions, but we know that these are the basic 5 emotions that all other emotions kind of fall in line with. Now, the one thing I know about these emotions, we have them categorized here, but there are different intensity levels for these emotions as well. So you might say, you know, I know my emotion falls within the realm of disgust, but it's different intensity levels. Maybe I'm just a little disgusted, you know, maybe I'm extremely disgusted, and we're going to explore those different intensity levels and why it's important for us to recognize and acknowledge that there are different intensity levels when we're talking about emotions. All right, so we'll start with anger. We know we explored this a little bit. We feel anger when we're maybe mentally or physically blocked. We want something, we can't have it. We're not getting something that we really want. We are, you know, think something is unfair. Maybe something is unjust. This is, you know, like, oh, I'm angry. Maybe the message could be like, you know, get out of my way. I don't want you here because I'm angry. You could be annoyed while you're angry. So if we see here the different intensity levels, you know, annoyance is not a very high level of intensity of anger, but then we have like fury, right? Fury could be like a super high level of anger where it's just like, now I am extremely infuriated. I am on level 1000, and it's going to be very difficult for me to kind of calm down from that. Now, if you can see here frustration, because I feel like I see a lot of frustration in my young people, frustration here is, you know, kind of close to the middle. So it's not the highest level of intensity when it comes to anger, but it's somewhere in the middle. And if someone is frustrated, it might be a little bit easier to kind of walk them back from their frustration, you know, walk them back to like a calm, normal state than it would be for fury. If someone is completely like infuriated, it's going to take some work. If they're a little frustrated, maybe some clarity in something can help walk them back from some of this anger that they're feeling. So just know that we have these different intensity levels. Then we have fear. We talked about this. When something, you know, is not safe for us, maybe our well-being is threatened. Here's the thing I love about when we're talking about these emotions. When it comes to fear, the emotion of fear is valid whether someone feels like their safety is being threatened in theory, like in their perception, or in reality. So I always tell people fear is about perceived and actual fear. For you, you might be like, there's nothing to fear outside. In their mind, they're like, there is something to fear outside. If I walk outside of this door, I get hit by a bus. A piano could fall on my head. A bee could sting me and I could die, right? So for them, that's a perceived fear. And for us, we might be like, but the sun is shining outside. It's a beautiful day. Just go outside. So remember, fear is valid because it can be perceived fear and actual fear. So just because you might not see it doesn't mean that that person isn't perceiving fear somewhere. The message of fear really could be like, help me, I need some help. It can, you know, range from trepidation to complete terror. As you see here, this intensity level, right? The different range. Trepidation here is, you know, not as intense as complete terror, horror, panic, right? And even anxiety here. I know me, I am a chronic anxiety sufferer, and mine is always about just the unknown, right? Not knowing something gives me anxiety. And I know that that is rooted in fear. So just again, the acknowledgement that we have these different intensity levels, these varying levels of feeling this basic emotion of fear. We got disgust. We can be faced with disgust when it's something toxic, something unpleasant. Jesse said it earlier, a person's actions can be disgusting. We know food can be disgusting. That the message is really like, get this away from me. I don't want this around me. It may show others that the target of disgust, again, is to be kept away. Disgust can carry a message, from just dislike to like, ugh, I loathe this. Here we have these varying levels of disgust. Just a little dislike here to complete abhorrence, revulsion, loathing. Like now I hate this. I'm so disgusted by it. And we know that can show up differently. And then we have sadness here. Sadness, and we said this with anger as well, but we can attribute sadness to feeling like you lost something, right? Sadness is when you lose something that was valuable to you. The message with sadness, it can be comfort, support. It may encourage, or it may intend to encourage, to get empathy from others. Sadness can carry a message ranging from disappointment. We also talked about anger. We know anger, or in this case, we'll call it anguish, can show up in other ways as well. So we have some disappointment on the lower end of it, the intensity level, and then anguish, like I am so sad, like I'm now filled with so much like anguish. That's a higher level of intensity. We have hopelessness here, distraught, discouragement, misery, despair. Here's grief, right? Grief is pretty high up as an intensity level. Losing something, losing someone's sorrow, those are really intense emotions to feel. So it might take some work to really coax people back from those emotions. And then we have enjoyment, right? We can feel enjoyment when we experience comfort, novelty, right? Some happiness. The message there could be like, this feels good. It may encourage people to go engage, to interact. It can carry a message from, sensory pleasure to like complete ecstasy. Like I love this so much. I'm enjoying myself so much. Look at all of these words we can affiliate with enjoyment, relief, right? Wonder, compassion, rejoicing. So all of these are affiliated with joy as well. So we have explored, we call this the atlas of emotions, because we know that all of these emotions are kind of tied up into these 5 basic emotions. And, we can call these like synonyms, right? It's like, I'm feeling some word affiliated in enjoyment. Maybe it's peace, right? Maybe it's relief. That is going to fall into the enjoyment. Now, the thing that we're really going to talk about a little bit is this timeline. Anytime you're feeling some type of emotion, we affiliate it with an event. So we're going to talk about a timeline for all of our emotions to happen, because guess what? Emotions don't just come out of nowhere with nothing happening. And so this is for us to really think about, and start to have a little empathy to say, like, there's a reason for this emotion. So let's talk about what's happening here. So anytime there's an emotion, an event, something happened. When you think about the event, it's important to also think about the context. This is the way we experience things, right? The way you perceive something is going to be different than the way I perceive something. Context plays a huge role in us even understanding or exploring our emotions, right? Think about, I always tell people, when you think about the context, I love to think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If I walk into work first thing in the morning and I have not had any food, and maybe I just got done sitting in a whole bunch of traffic and I'm late. If the first thing somebody says to me is like, they need something from me, you're probably gonna get some anger, some frustration out of me, right? Because the context for me is like, I'm hungry. I just sat in all this traffic, so I'm late, like all these things going on. So now I'm angry, right? So there's context that happens when we're thinking about this event. And then you have your own perceptual database. right? So we have an event, we have the context of the situation, then your own perceptual database. That's basically your lived experiences, your own beliefs about the world, your own beliefs about how you should be feeling, whatever that is your perceptual database, your personal histories with this experience, with this person, right? Maybe so you ran into somebody and you just like, I really ain't been liking this person for a long time. That's a part of your perceptual database. You already have a history with this person, you don't like them. So that's also a part of this emotion you're experiencing. And then we think about the emotional state. There may be some physical changes. We know that there are some mental changes that happens. All of this is happening every time we experience an emotion. There's an event, we have the context, your own perceptual database, then you have your emotional state. That might influence your some physical changes, some mental changes might occur. And then we have your response. So this is what happens every time someone has an emotion. They are tying all of these things into, boom, their response, which means the way I respond to you today might not be the way I respond to you tomorrow. The way I respond to you right now in this moment may not be the way I respond to you 30 minutes from now, because all of these things come into play. Okay, so we're going to think about this, and I want you to say, look, let's do an activity, and we'll kind of walk through this. Antonio, you had mentioned something earlier about young people with the LGBTQ community, right? Let's kind of use that as an example. Let's go back. We're going to walk through this, a timeline, right? In order for them to feel, I think you associated that with disgust. We'll take that emotion, disgust. All right, so in order for them to tap into that disgust, something happened. Let's make it up. What could the event have been? Something happened for that emotion to come up. What could the event have been, Antonio?
I mean, given, nothing prior happened that day, I would think it would be something that was, taught or like handed down, from experience or in the context of home life or cultural life. And so maybe they overheard adults talking about something, about someone who was in the LGBTQ community, and then they saw them express disgust when they were discussing this.
So that's a part of it. With those young people, the event was that little boy showed up today, or whoever that person was. That's the event. They walked in the room, they showed up, they sat by each other. Something so small like that is the event for our young people. It was just like, you just being here is the thing that happened. And so it sounds like that person being there was an event in and of itself. So we'll say them being there was the event. And then we get into what you were talking about, a little bit of the context and the perceptual database, right? The context for them is already like, well, I already think these things about you, right? Or I'm afraid of what my friends might think if I don't agree with them on however they feel. Plus, there may be this perceptual database of, there could be some personal experience or some learned behaviors that they know. Maybe they've seen someone else model this. That is all a part of how they're tying into this emotion. So then it takes them to their emotional state of, now they're disgusted. How does that disgust show up? It could be a physical change, like, ugh, I'm moving my shoulder, like, ugh, get away from me. The mental state, I don't even like you now, right? Like now, not only am I disgusted, I'm starting to get a little angry that you're still here, right? I'm starting to be like, you about to mess my day up because you're still here. And then that triggered whatever their response. And maybe their response is mean words. Maybe their response is like physically moving, whatever the case may be. But all of this stuff happened in that person's mind in order for them to affiliate that emotion with that specific event, right? So it's not just I woke up today wanting to be disgusted because this person is is trans, because this young person identifies as LGBTQIA. No, all of these things exist. Remember at the beginning, we said everyone experiences life differently based on bias, based on cultural experiences, based on personal experience. All of this comes into play when we're thinking about how our emotions show up or how we express our emotions, right? So that is managing these big emotions. That's a normal part of being human. That's what makes us human. And I know you all talked about anger. I think it was with anger. Yeah, you said, hey, if there was no conflict, we wouldn't know that a resolution is needed, right? So without us experiencing these emotions, we wouldn't know that some changes were needed or something was happening, in our body. Emotions are our way of protecting us. So now I'm gonna have you all kind of choose your own emotional adventure, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to take just about 5 minutes or so. I want you to go down and identify an event, some event that happened for you. I want you to think about what was the context? What did you already believe about that event? How did it trigger an emotional state? Did you have any physical changes? Were there any mental changes? And then I want you to write out, like, what was your response? I'm not going to ask you to share this. So just know this is personal. I'm not going to ask you to share any part of this experience. I just want you to think through how your emotions have shown up. And maybe if you were able to identify all of these different aspects and we're going to see, like, did I respond the right way? And it's not even a right or wrong way of responding. It's just like, do I understand now why I responded in that way? So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I'm going to shut up. And I want you all to kind of go through this and identify an event. Think about the context, your perceptual database, your emotional state, any physical or mental changes that happen, and then your responses. And we're just going to talk a little bit about this and explore whatever your thought process was. So I'm putting 5 minutes on the clock and go. You got about 1 more minute. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so just a really quick debrief. Again, I'm not going to ask you to share what your timeline was, but I do want you all to think about this. If you have, all of this is in the little workbook, the virtual workbook from the link as well. It's on page 10, a reflection question. I just want you to think about what's something new that you learned about your emotions and or the timeline of emotions and their responses. What's one thing that you learned that's new about those emotions and that timeline? Go ahead and type that into the chat for me. Just one new thing you learned. Barbara says that I don't follow that timeline. Okay. It's one new thing that you learned. I'll give you about 1 more minute for that. Oh, emotions move quickly. Love it. Everyone's timeline is different. Absolutely. I learned that emotions are a spectrum. Example, I can still be angry without going off or infuriated. Yes. Jana says that I can change how I respond, how I choose to respond. Lots of great takeaways. Rose says everyone doesn't respond the same way. Absolutely not. I think for me, as I learned about emotions in this timeline, a key takeaway is that you won't always respond the same, right? Like anger always won't look the same every time you're angry. And I have to keep that in mind, that angry, being angry can look very differently depending on the context, depending on your perceptual database, depending on all of these different things. All right, someone says emotions transition, and can transfer swift. Yes. These are really great takeaways when we did our break. Awesome. And you all feel free to keep typing in any takeaways or reflections there. We're going to get into talking about just like the art and skill of managing emotional activation, right? Which basically says that we're always going to be triggered. Something's always going to trigger us. But the key is like, how do we manage those emotions once we get triggered? I know earlier I asked you all like, hey, how do you deal with challenging or big or difficult emotions? And you all put a couple of different tools, into the chat to say, somatic breathing can be very, very helpful. Some people were saying, I need to take 5. I need to take a step back so I can allow myself to feel those emotions. And then I can hop back into it. Those are really great tools. So we're going to talk about, the art and skill of being able to manage anytime someone is activated. Let's see, Jesse typed a reflection here that says it was a great reminder that even just walking into a room can be an event. Yes, it can. or what might be perceived as if even the smallest things can trigger a larger emotional response. Absolutely. I do a crisis de-escalation training as well. And I always remind people in that training that when we work with youth, when we're thinking about things that can be triggering, sometimes a person walking into a building can be triggering, right? Like literally just walking in somewhere is just like, well, it was triggering that I even had to come here. So that can send people into crisis mode really, really quickly. All right, so we're going to talk about this. I love this concept. It's flipping our lid. I'm going to share another video with you all. This is Dr. Daniel Siegel. And we're going to talk about a little bit about the brain, right? So here we go.
One of the most rewarding experiences for me has been to study brain science and apply it to the experience of parenting. And the hand model of the brain that I use to teach parents is very useful to understand that. So if you take your thumb and put it in the middle of your palm, put your fingers over the top, this is a very useful model of the brain. And when we can actually see in front of us what's going on in the brain, then we can change what the brain does. So let me walk you through very basically what happens in this brain and the structures in it. And it goes like this. The spinal cord comes up, representing the wrist, and then you have coming up into the skull, the brain stem and the limbic area, which work together to help regulate arousal and your emotions and the way you have a fight, flight, freeze response. These are below the cortex, the limbic and brainstem areas, and the cortex is this higher part of the brain that allows us to perceive the outside world, to think and reason. And this frontmost part of the brain, right behind your forehead, so the person's oriented like this, is actually the part that regulates the subcortical, limbic, and brainstem areas. This regulation is very important because sometimes we can have all sorts of things happen in our life. We're tired, we're exhausted, someone pushes a particular emotional button, and we can flip our lids. So rather than being tuned in and connected and balanced and flexible, we can lose all that flexibility, even lose moral reasoning, and act in ways that are terrifying to others, including our children. Now, you can actually bring yourself back online and come back to the high road and make a repair with your child. And that's important to explain to them. And you can also use this hand model of the brain to explain to children, even as young as 5 and 6, how to understand when their emotions are rising up from the brainstem and limbic areas here, and how it's overriding the prefrontal area and making it so they may be about to flip their lids. So I've had kids come tell me that they're about to go flip their lids and they need a break. They need a timeout. And by even just naming that, they can tame it. And that's the power of using the hand model for ourselves and our children, help us all make sense of what goes on in the emotional communication that we have in the course of day-to-day life.
All righty. So I am going to get back to our presentation. Now, I love sharing that video because it's a resource. You can use that as a tool and a resource. I love how he talked about, you know, you can use this with young people, even as young as like 5 or 6, to communicate, right? So talking about flipping your lid. So when we talk about, you know, what we need, if we need tools, if we need resources to be able to communicate, to understand, I think this is a really great tool that you can use to say, hey, this is how we're going to norm on communicating where we are, right? Like, are you in control? Like, this is being in control of my emotions. And when it's flipped up, I am no longer in control. Like, I have now flipped my lid. I have gone off. I need some interventions. Maybe when we're here is like, I ain't flipped it yet. Oh, but I'm about to. One more thing gonna set me off. So I love this as a communication tool because it's visual, right? And it's something that we can do with our young people to talk about where we are in our emotional state. So if you find that useful, put that in your toolbox. And here is just a description of what we're communicating with that, right? So the thumb is the big feeling, right? We have the downstairs brain, the upstairs brain, and we're talking about, you know, flipping our lid. my hand is closed. I'm able to make good choices. I can, you know what I'm saying, like regulate myself when my lid is flipped. You know, I can no longer regulate myself and I'm unable to really utilize, you know, my brain in that way. I also want you all to think about this trauma. He talked about the prefrontal cortex here. The prefrontal cortex is really your ability to make those decisions, right? The ability to regulate and understand. When people are impacted by trauma, trauma actually impacts the way that the brain can communicate and function, right? So that it can change the brain. So if you're thinking about our young people who have been exposed to a lot of trauma at very young ages, this prefrontal cortex, which means their ability to make those decisions and to perceive the world in a way, it could be damaged. You could be 17 years old, still operating with the brain functions of a 9-year-old. And if you know anything about the way that the brain develops, right? We know the brain doesn't fully develop until we're in like our mid-20s, right? And when we think about our prefrontal cortex, it's the last thing to fully develop. The brain grows from the back to the front, right? So our prefrontal cortex, all that great decision making, when we say, you know better, all of that lies here on the prefrontal cortex. If that's the last thing to fully develop, and we know a fully developed brain is in our mid-20s, why are we holding our 7-year-olds responsible for things that they just haven't fully developed yet? Right? Even our 17-year-olds, even our 18-year-olds, their brains haven't fully developed. Again, that prefrontal cortex, the ability to know and distinguish between what is really right and wrong and see the future. If you're 17, 16, what's happening in your brain is you're very much in the right now. You're not thinking about 5 years from now. You're not thinking about the consequences of your actions 3 years from now. All you can think about is in the now moment. So I just want to kind of put that out there to say trauma impacts the way that we can manage our emotion because it impacts how our brain is perceiving things, our ability to regulate and make decisions. So when you have some trauma there, just know that that is going to impact how they can communicate. All right, we're gonna do that one. Okay, so cultivating empathy. Antonia says the hand is a great model. Yeah, I love the flipping the lid model. I think it's really great. It's a great tool we can use with our young people. Whoever iPhone 936632 says in adolescence, it's to make them aware. Thank you. All right, so we're talking about techniques right now, taking it back to our program and cultivating empathy and managing emotions. So let's think about what are some ways we can show empathy. Go ahead and type into the chat or feel free to unmute yourself. How can we show empathy to our young people when they're experiencing really big emotions?
Listening to them when they're speaking and being active in their or when they're talking, and just really try to understand what they're saying to you and use the visual clues. I have my team here at SES a lot doing for ACEs because we look at those things and make sure that we're identifying the proper thing that is hindering their development.
Yes, ACEs, and for anyone who doesn't know, ACEs is the adverse childhood experiences, right? Knowing that these traumas can exist, that there could be things, like you said, prohibiting them from having their needs met or from meeting, you know, those developmental milestones or what have you. So thank you for that. I see people talking about support, communication, being compassionate, active listening. Yes. Listening. That's key. It's something so easy that oftentimes we forget to do. Active listening, right? So that's listening to understand and not listening to respond. I have been very guilty of listening to respond. So I challenge myself to make sure I'm listening to see, you know, wherever they are. Someone says, meet them where they are. Absolutely. Christina says listening, reading their body language, knowing when to just listen instead of, immediately responding, right? Because sometimes you shouldn't have to say anything. Sometimes a response isn't needed. Sometimes the response is to listen. Oh, Jesse says, yes, identifying our own emotions first. Let me tell y'all something. That is the best way we can really support our young people. You got to check in with yourself first. Am I in a space to be able to be fully present for this person? And remember, at the beginning, I check in with everybody at the beginning of every training because I want to know, are you even in a space to receive what I'm about to give you today? Are you in a space to be able to share? Do you have the capacity right now? So you have to identify and figure out, where am I at? That's the self-awareness part of it. Where am I at today? Am I having a sunshiny day? Is it a partly cloudy day? You all talked about earlier, like, do I need to take 5? I might need to tap out because I may not be able to handle it today. So thank you for that. Identifying your own emotion first. That can be a really great way to help us cultivate empathy. I love it. I love it. Now, when we're talking about managing emotions, so what are strategies that you use to take care of yourself when you're having an emotion? What are some of the strategies you use for you? Short-term strategies, long-term strategies. What does that look like for you? I'll tell you all, one of my strategies I've learned to use somatic breathing, like breathing techniques. I have been doing my research on understanding different ways to self-regulate by using some rapid breathing strategies, because that has helped me. Jesse says, take a walk. Yes. Learning how, and honestly, y'all, I've learned I need to dance. I need to move my body. I will break out in a Beyonce song and dance so quickly because Queen Beyonce just helps bring me back to my center. Christina says, breathing through, talking to a few people that I trust. Absolutely. Oh, someone says exercise. Yes. Antonio says short term. If I'm angry, I take a breather, vacate the event or space. Kiana says I go outside. I walk, I move, I journal. Absolutely. Let me stop and review where I may have derailed. Okay. Speak with someone who I trust. Oh, Lisa says the tapping technique, right? So hitting those tapping points. I love it. These are all great techniques for us to use on ourselves. And the one thing, like Jesse said earlier, that cultivating empathy, you got to check in with yourself. You also have to know what techniques you need to be able to manage your emotions in difficult times. Because here's the thing, if we can model these things for our young people, then it's going to be easier for them to kind of do them and implement them themselves. Because if they see us actively doing these things, it's really going to be something for them to say, wow, I'm not the only person who deals with challenging emotion. Sometimes we make our young people believe it's only them going through difficult times and having, big emotions. But it's important for our young people to see us use these techniques and for us to be able to communicate with them to say, listen, Miss Shavon having a moment right now. I'm gonna need to use my breathing techniques the same way I tell y'all, let me take 2 minutes and breathe, because I am angry right now, or I am frustrated, or whatever the case may be. If they can see you do it, it's easier for them to model as well. Antonio says, if I'm happy or joyful, I try not to be over the top and be calm, but he says he does try to make it contagious. So just remember these techniques, right? Think about what you need to do for yourself and model those things for our young people, because that's a part of the self-awareness. When we can become self-aware, it's easier for us to really be able to help our young people and then, give them these techniques, because all of the techniques here that you all talked about, share them with your young people. All right, so we are at the close of our presentation here today. I just wanted to say, were there any questions anyone had that we didn't get to? I want to give you space for that. Feel free to type them into the chat if there are things that you feel like, Shavon, I had this question, but we didn't get to it. Share that for me as well. This is really also just a reminder to give yourself some grace. right? Like sometimes we're trying, we're all doing the best that we can, and we are all in this together. So definitely be sure to give yourself some grace and some understanding when it comes to managing your emotions, and us also being there as a support to help our young people understand their own emotions and then manage them. You can't manage something that you don't understand, right? So when we can put a name to something, help our young people name their emotions, that is really going to help us, help them figure out how to manage them. So let's do a quick reflection. If you all can type into the chat for me, what is one takeaway? What's your biggest takeaway from our session today? Type that into the chat for me. What's your biggest takeaway from our session? And I'm going to let you do that. iPhone says everything. Well, I love it. Barbara says, thanks for all the valuable information. Well, thank you all for being here and being present. T. Walton says, identifying emotions before we express them. I love it. Jesse says, the connection to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I love Maslow. Antonio says, don't just focus on the extreme or intense emotions. Pay attention to the less intense to prevent the intensity of the emotion. Yep. Because you're right, Antonio. Sometimes we focus on the outward expression of everything. When I do my crisis de-escalation training, I always tell people we miss the subtleties. We don't, intervene until things become very outward, and we have missed all the signs that something was brewing. So if we pay attention to the subtleties, the smaller things, it will indicate to us that, something is brewing. We need to provide some support there. So as you all are continuing to type your emotions, your reflections there, I just want to, I'm gonna just put my information here. If anybody has any questions, here's my email address. And then this is the website for Forum for Youth Investment. And then I think they got rid of their CYPQ. That is the Weichert Center. But here's the information for them. If you want to learn more about these methods, if you want to learn more about program quality or any assessment tools, those are there for you to use as well. Christina says a reflection is that emotions can look different for everyone, and to be aware of that, and also be aware of the timeline, because everyone's timeline moves differently. Absolutely. My time is up here. You all have been fabulous. Thank you so much for allowing me to walk you through this information. And thank you so much for being willing and open and vulnerable to explore these emotions with me today and with one another. Thank you for creating the emotional safety for everyone here. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Antonio, for allowing me to be here with you all. If you have any questions about this information, my email is there. You may reach out to me. And with that, I will turn it back over to Antonio.
Yes, thank you all. I would say, could you all just give Shavon a hand for this? But of course, we got, the emojis and the reactions in the chat to use that.
Yeah.
I'll put the survey in the chat, so if you all could please go ahead and fill that out to let us know how we are doing. And also we use that for reporting metrics as well for us. So please fill that out. Also be on the lookout for the invitation for the September 22nd training that is called Behavior Management. So that will be, kind of similar to this, and you may be able to find yourself implementing the things that we learned today in that training. So that was through the JCPS staff members. This will also be at a JCPS site, which is the Shawnee satellite. If you came to our end of year celebration, that is the same location. So you will receive an invitation soon in your email. So if you are interested in that, please fill that registration out, and we will see you there. I will not prolong the time. Thank you all so much for being so participative, and also to Mr. Bond, of course, for another great session. There was a lot of information, great information, but this doesn't mean anything unless you implement it and integrate it into your programming. So please, take this and apply it and integrate it into what you are doing, so that we can create the most safest spaces and great places to advance learning and development for our young people, right? Thank you all so much, and please have a great rest of your day.